So if you're new to the world of Tesla or public charging, this video is for you. In this video, I'm going to be covering what you need to know about public charging, some of the costs involved, do you need to download apps and where to get them, and also how you can get free public charging on the go. So stay tuned. Hey, welcome to the channel, and consider subscribing if you're new here and you're into Tesla, tech, or business. Now, in the comments section below on a lot of my videos, I get asked about public charging. For those of you that have watched the channel before, you'll know I don't have any home charging, so I completely rely on public charging. So in this video, I want to cover what you need to know about public charging, and more importantly, how do you get some free charge? So let's jump into it. Now, what I would recommend you do first of all is just download all of these apps and pop them in a folder on your iPhone or Android phone. It just means they're there and they're available. So if you do end up somewhere where the reception isn't so great, they're already downloaded. And then even if you've got like 2G or really poor 3G, it'll be quite easy to use them. You don't want to be stuck in the middle of nowhere trying to download a big app and then you can't download it and then you aren't able to use your charge. So as you can see, I have them all here in my EV charging app. I also store ZapMap and PlugShare and other things like that in here as well. I've got Kilowatt, which is a charging calculator, so you can see how long and how much a charge will take, which is really good. But we'll run through more of these apps as we go. Now, since I've owned my Tesla since March, I've noticed that a lot of the public chargers have been updated recently. So almost all of them that I see around my way, you can use a contactless card like Apple Pay or a credit or debit card, which is really good. I know a couple of years ago, a lot of them would require that you paid for an RFID card and pay for that first, and then you have to wait for that to be delivered before you can use the public charger. So I can imagine that was a real pain in the bum. So in this, I'm going to run through some of the most common chargers that you would see in your area, and then a bit further down in the video, I'll show you how you can sort of fine tune your area to see what chargers you have available around your house, and also what free chargers you might have. I've actually not paid for a single charge since I've owned my Tesla Model 3, since March. Can you believe that? Not one charge have I paid for. And I did a whole 900-mile road trip to Cornwall, which you can see by clicking up here or checking out the link in the description below. So I'm going to run you through some of the chargers and some of the deals that you can get. You know, a lot of these chargers are much more expensive than others. So while some of them are free, some of them are very expensive and almost cost as much as petrol, so you do need to look out for that. So the first one we're going to talk about is Genie Point, and you will see this about a lot of the UK. It's a good charging system, it gets a lot of good reviews, but this one, the thing you need to be cautious of on this one is that there is a £10 overstay fee for charging over 90 minutes. And a lot of them are starting to get this, which I think is a good thing. It means that people just don't park there all day. So for Genie Point, you can buy an RFID card or you can use their app. And the cost of this one is around 30 kilowatts per hour, which isn't too bad. It's not the cheapest, but it's not a bad one. And what you can also do, if you're a bit worried about being somewhere with no reception, you can buy an RFID card that you can keep in your wallet or your Tesla, and then just use that whenever you want. So you don't need to have your phone on you, which is pretty good. Now, the next one is the electric highway or eco-city chargers that you might see about. So they're not too bad either. They are 30 kilowatts per hour. But if you get your energy from them, you can use the public chargers for 15p per kilowatt hour, which isn't too bad. So if you haven't got an energy supplier, it might even be worth switching to that energy supplier so that you can use the public chargers for almost half price if you're out and about. Just have a check again in the maps later on just to see where all your local chargers are, but there's a good one to look out for. So next up is Podpoint, and although I don't have a lot of those here in Manchester, as you might have seen on my trip to Cornwall, there were loads in Cornwall and they seem to be absolutely everywhere. Now, Podpoint is free as far as I've seen. I know there are some paid ones, but most of the ones I've seen are free. And you can just plug in your car and pop into a Tesco's and it will start charging. But there is one thing to note with the Podpoint. If you want to activate your charge, you will need the app. And the activation means you can charge longer than 15 minutes. So I definitely recommend downloading the app, just registering for that, and you can just plug in, activate your charge, and then you can charge for up to about 4 or 5 hours in some Tesco's. Do be careful because in some supermarkets they have like a 15-minute time limit, maybe a limit where you have to buy something from the store to charge for a couple of hours. So keep an eye on that when you enter any public car park. Now, next up is BP Pulse, and this is one that I would definitely recommend, and it's worth a little bit of investigation. You see, BP Pulse have a lot of rapid chargers around now. They were once called the Polar Network, and then BP kind of bought them out or partnered with them. So have a look. I have a lot of BP rapid chargers around my way. There's actually 2 within about half a mile of my house. So it's kind of like my nearest thing to a supercharger. My nearest supercharger is about 8 miles away. So this is what I planned to use when I first got the car. I thought I'll just drop the car over the pub over the road, leave it there for an hour, and I'll have a full charge. Now, it's a really good charger. I haven't had any problems when I used it the couple of times for free. I had some couple of free uses of that. But the charge for just going up and using your contactless card is 30 pence per kilowatt. So you don't need the BP Pulse app to start charging, which is good. You can just use your card and it will cost you 30 pence per kilowatt at the time of this video. But there are a couple of things to note. There's actually a cheaper way to use this. So if you download the app first of all, there is a subscription model they have, but even if you just download the app, register, and then top up the app with cash, you can actually use the free membership, which you can see here on the screen. And this takes the price down. Let's say you're using the 50 kilowatt charger here. That takes the price down from 30p per kilowatt hour down to 25p per kilowatt hour. So that will actually save you quite a lot of money over the period of a charge, just for downloading the app and just plonking your money on the app first. What it will mean though is, of course, if you say put £40 on your app and you use £35 of it, you'll just end up with the odd £5 on here. But you know, for me, it's a supply that I will probably use more and more again when the free charging ends here in the city. Next up, they do a subscription model. Now, you can pay for a subscription which is £7.85 per month, including VAT. Now, if you've got a business, you can also put this through your business as well, so it's a bit of a no-brainer. But this takes the price down from 30p per kilowatt down to 15 pence per kilowatt. Now, that makes it as cheap as most home charging, unless you're on like Octopus Go or some other EV specific tariff. My kilowatt per hour is about 14.9 pence per minute. So this actually makes it as cheap as charging at home on a 3-pin or a 7 kilowatt charger. So it's definitely worth investigating. And you can see here, if you use the AC charger, it's 12p per kilowatt, or if you use the super 150 kilowatt per hour chargers, it's 27 pence per minute. So just a great way of getting a fast charge a little bit cheaper if you want to do that subscription. Now, they don't mention it too much on here, but there are actually a lot of free BP Pulse chargers. As I mentioned, I've had a few free ones. And because I got a month's free subscription without even putting my card in, I was able to use these a couple of times just for free on a slower charge, like a 7 kilowatt per hour. One was 22, but it was completely free. So that's BP Pulse. As with all of these apps, I'll put a link in the description to the app store where you can download them, but that's worth checking out if you have a lot of these in your area, or if you're going on a road trip and these are in the area that you're staying. Next up is Instavault. Now, you'll see these more and more, especially on motorway journeys. I've come across a couple. I haven't actually used one yet, but what I've heard about these is that they're not too expensive compared to some chargers out there. They're 35p per kilowatt hour, which again isn't the cheapest. It's not as cheap as the BP Pulse we talked about. But the good thing is it's just very, very simple. So as you can see here, it's simple, contactless payment, no connection charges, no subscriptions, pay for what only you use, and there's no apps either. So hey guys, Future Mark here. I just wanted to jump in. Since recording this video, Instavault have released a brand new app, and it's actually really good. You can pay from the app itself. You can find a charger, which is really good. But best of all, they're now doing like a referral program. So I'm going to put a link below so you can get £5 free charging on me. So check out a link in the description below for that, and also put a link to the app store so you can download the Instavault app. But just wanted to jump in there because I did say there is no app. Well, now there is. If you are on a motorway journey, these are rapid chargers. They're 50 kilowatts and higher usually. So if you can't get to a supercharger, these are definitely worth looking out for. As you can see down the map here, there's quite a lot in each area. So I think if you can't get to a supercharger, these are definitely worth a look at for a rapid charge along with the BP Pulse. Next up is Shell Recharge. Now, Shell are putting in, again, some rapid charges in a lot of their forecourts in the UK. And I think this is great because I've always wondered about this. You know, you've got these big petrol forecourts all over the country, and barely any of them have any electric chargers on them. I mean, why are these petrol companies not getting ahead of the game and kind of turning their forecourts into supercharging or their own branded charging stations? And, you know, they've got the flat roofs on the petrol station forecourts. Why not use those for solar and charge up the electric chargers? Anyway, Shell have the Shell Recharge app and program. Now, I've got a couple of these in Manchester, and you can see here in the picture here, there's a 175 kilowatt recharger there. So they are, again, one of the rapid chargers. So if you want to charge the Tesla much faster, keep a lookout for these. What I would say about the Shell ones is they're quite a lot more expensive than the previous charging companies we've talked about. They are 41 pence per kilowatt hour at the time of this video. So it does make them pretty expensive. I think I worked out, if you go on the ZapMap calculator, if you go from 20% to 100% charge, it will cost you around £25 for a full charge. Now, of course, that's still a little bit cheaper than diesel and petrol, of course. You know, a full tank in my old Mercedes C250 CDI was like about £50–60 for a full tank. But what I would say for electric cars, of course, in diesels and petrols, you lose a little bit of range in the winter, but in EVs, you really do lose a lot of range. So I can see a trip going from Norwich and back being like 2 to 3 charges, and then it suddenly starts becoming not too much cheaper than petrol. It's still a bit cheaper, but you know, I think we really need to keep an eye on this. It's one thing I'm worried about with public charging myself, not having a home charger, is that are we going to get to the point where just electric charging is as expensive as petrol? I hope not, and obviously if you can charge at home and use something like Octopus Go, it's mega cheap. But just to let you know about this one, it's Shell Recharge, and hopefully we'll see these all over the UK in all of the Shell petrol stations coming very soon. And of course, there is a Shell Recharge app too. Okay, next up is Osprey. Now, I haven't actually seen a lot of these. When I was first researching my Tesla, a lot of the YouTube channels out there said this was one of the main chargers. I haven't actually seen a single Osprey charger in Manchester, in Cornwall, anywhere, but there of course are places. They're a massive charging network, and I think you'll see a lot of these in kind of shopping areas. So you'll see them in places where you get kind of B&M Bargains and the Boots and in Iceland, you know, all on a big kind of a state kind of shopping area. So keep a lookout for those. I've never used one before, and their charging, I know, does vary quite a bit from time to time. So have a look on their website, check ZapMap and PlugShare to see their latest pricing, as they have been going up and down a little bit recently. So that is Osprey. Now, the next one I want to talk about is one of the more obvious ones, and that's the Tesla chargers. Now, you do actually get 2 types of Tesla chargers. You get the Tesla superchargers, and you'll see those all up and down the UK, absolutely everywhere. And that's probably the main charger you'll use, especially if you've got referral miles, because it won't cost you anything. And you can use those on highways. They're super fast, super reliable, no apps needed. You just plug in and charge. But there is another type of Tesla charger called the Tesla destination charger. Now, I've noticed back home in Norfolk, when I'm going back there in a couple of weeks, I'll do a full video on that journey as well. There's quite a few destination chargers. There's one in the hotel we're staying at. There's one at a cafe we're staying near as well. And there's another one in a pub that we're going to go drinking in one night as well. So I'm just gonna leave the car charging there. Now, the good thing about a destination charger is that 9 times out of 10, they're absolutely free. The only thing you have to look out for is that sometimes they are blocked off for residents of hotels usually, or if you're going to a gym, you have to be a member of the gym to use them. But have a look next time you go on holiday, if you're staying in a hotel, if you regularly use a gym or maybe a cafe with a kind of a car park outside, have a look for a Tesla destination charger. You can view those on your Tesla, and when you're in the car and you search your map, just press the little icon in the bottom left, and then make sure the lightning bolt with one lightning bolt is activated, and that will show you some of the Tesla slower destination chargers. So even though there are a lot of chargers in the UK, they are some of the main ones. Now, I want to show you this. This is from ZapMap, and this is kind of like a customer ranking of all of the chargers in the UK. And you can see here at the bottom is the electric highway, and this gets the lowest average rating. So I would probably recommend, if you can, avoid those chargers. I have seen, even before I got my Tesla, and I haven't used an electric highway charger, so I don't want to slam them too much, but I was keeping an eye. You know, if you're like me, you keep an eye on where all the chargers are before you got your car. And these always seem to be out of order, or shut down, or just broken. And you can see here, the overall rating is 2 stars. So, you know, it's not great. If you're going to be relying on a charge, they are often slow, often broken. I've heard stories about them charging you like a £60 connection fee that you get refunded, but it takes weeks to get back. So maybe avoid those. At the top here, you can see the Tesla network is number 1, Instavault is number 2, Osprey, Podpoint, Shell Recharge. Now, BP Pulse is down here at the bottom, and I think that's because they used to be called Polar, and there were a lot of problems with Polar, but as far as I've seen so far from my own experience, the BP Pulse network is actually very good. It might be different in your area, and what I'm going to do next, I'll put a link to this if you want to see this and check this out. But next, I'm going to show you what apps I use to find these chargers, find free charging, and to see if they're actually working or not. So let's jump into that. So we've got the iPhone, and the first thing you can do is actually use Apple Maps or Google Maps and type in EV charging. So I'm just going to do that now. And you can see on Apple Maps here, it actually brings up all of the EV chargers. So we can see this one here in Manchester. I can tap that, pull up the details, and you'll see at the bottom here, it does say the number of ports, and it says pricing paid. Now, it doesn't give you a lot of details, but it is there. If you don't want to download loads of apps, you can do this on both Apple Maps and Google Maps. But the best 2 apps I think you should download and pop into your EV charging folder. The first one is called ZapMap, and I have done another video on this, but this is just a great place to check out all of the public chargers. And what you can do is you can put in details about your car. So you can see I've got mine ticked as a Tesla Model 3. All the connector types are ticked. But what's great about it, so you can see by the colors, the purple ones are the faster ones. So if we tap here, let's tap on this one near the Lowry Hotel. You can see this one is if we go to info, it's free to use for customers. It's a Tesla destination charger. It's got the devices, and then you actually get a chat feature as well. So you can see if people are saying it's out of order, how fast it is. You can see it's 11 kilowatts an hour there. If we go up here, I know this is one of the free ones I use on Blackfriars Road. You can see it's a 7 kilowatt charger. You can see it works, successful. And if you download these apps, make sure you comment on them as well to help other drivers. But it just shows you some of the pricing there. So you can go to any area. So I'm just gonna go somewhere random. Let's go to maybe Cambridge. Let's have a look. So if you zoom into Cambridge, you can see there are a load of chargers in Cambridge. So if you're in Cambridge for the weekend or you're on a holiday visiting friends, you can tap one of these. You can see this one that has issues and it's been out of service a month ago. So it just helps you plan your journey much better. So find a free charger or a charger that is definitely working. This one's working. There we go. Now, another app I use is called PlugShare. They're both very, very similar, these apps. So let's go into Wigan here, you can see there. Now I actually prefer PlugShare. I think the interface is a little better. There tends to be more photos on here I've found as well. So you see here, there's a photo here, and it shows you exactly where that charger is, which is really handy. You also get the map, the types of plugs that are available. Obviously in a Tesla, you'll want a Type 2 or a CCS. And again, it shows you if it's in use, how much it will cost and things like that. So I would definitely recommend using those. But let's go back to ZapMap. So how do you find a free charger? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna locate where I am. I'm in Manchester City Centre. And what you can do is you can tap the little icon on the top left here, and you can go to connector types for your speed. But we can also go to payment, and then we can tap free to use and apply. And then what it's going to do is going to get rid of all of the other chargers that charge you money to charge. So you can see here, we now tap again on this Blackfriars one, you can see that this is a free to use charger. So this is a great way of just quickly whittling down to all of the free chargers in your area. And you can see here in Manchester, there's absolutely loads of free chargers. All of these are 7 kilowatts, but in an area called Swinton, which isn't too far from where I live, there's a 50 kilowatt high-speed charger. So again, let's just zoom out. Let's go, let's maybe go down to Northampton, zoom in, and you can see Northampton doesn't have very many free chargers, but it does have one here, and that's the McDonald's. It's a 7 kilowatt charger. So, you know, depending on where you live, you might be able to get away with free charging like I do. There's absolutely a ton of free chargers in Manchester. There's a lot in some garden centres and some places we visit, some restaurants. So it's actually been pretty good for me. When I went to Cornwall and did that road trip, free charging there in the Tesco's. I do know in some places, like my wife's family live in Middlesbrough, a place called Saltburn, and there's only one free charger there. So it's going to be difficult for me to survive there without a free charge. I'll probably be using the paid Genie point in a Morrison's car park there. But again, this helps you find all of the chargers, free or not free. So I hope that's helped. So anyway, let me know in the comment section if that's helped you. And if you've got any more questions about public charging or what apps to use, let me know, as I promise I do get back to every single question asked. And this video is going to lead on to my next video in about a week's time, which is all about buying your Tesla through a business. So if you haven't purchased your Tesla yet and you want to know how to get it pretty much half price, yeah, about half price, I'm going to guide you through that video about all of the tax incentives that are currently available for buying a Tesla if you run your own business. There are other incentives as well for self-employed people too, but this video is going to be about people, for people who have a limited company. So just make sure you subscribe if you've enjoyed this video or if you want to see that one, and I'll see you in the next video.